Do you have any memories of Busy Bone or Seventh Sign that like stick out the most?
Well, yeah. The biggest thing, man. Let me tell you this. The biggest thing, for me, uh, is actually, really my bus trip. Now y'all get to hear my Bone Thugs story. The real deal Holyfield. The main connect and the main reason that, shouts out to Big Q Loco. He's free. God bless his soul. One Most High, Miss Loco, Bizzy Bone Entertainment, West Coast Regime Family. Um, yeah, well, I ended up connecting with him, uh, '08 officially. And you got to keep in mind, man, Q, see, you guys diss these family members and don't even know what you're doing. You're talking about the wrong people. Because you got to think, Q Local, of course, is a Seven Sign OG, you know. And so him and B have been tight for 14 years. That's one of his main guys, has been, will be, I'm sure, until they depart. So, when I'm networking with Q, keep in mind this whole time, back in the day, Leon was trying to build and get at him and so forth and so on, because he was trying to do the reunion, reunite. But if you know Q like I know Q, then he's about that money, man, So if it ain't shaking, it ain't quaking. You know what I mean? And you know, I got at him through the MySpace. Let him know what was going on, because Q knew. Well, should I say, Scale knew I was kind of reaching out to him. He's like, I said I'm gonna try to get in contact and let him know, that I'm with y'all. I'm with you, so y'all can kind of see if y'all can come together. Let's try to make something happen. And you got to keep in mind as well that, you know, shouts out to Young Jig. We tried so hard to reunite the Seven Sign for you guys. There was a reunion album in the works. Nobody could make it happen. Nobody could come together and do what they were supposed to do. In that respect, Bone did a lot better through their Art of War than Seven Sign did trying to come together for a reunion album for whatever reason. Yeah, I had, all, lined up Ross from the South. He got everything good and stuff. At the time, Elion and I weren't talking because I just didn't respect where his business practices had went. All these little drop in the bucket deals when he could have done better. And I think it was just more of a selfish thing going on at the time than splitting the sandwich, if you will, to quote B. But, getting back to it, of course, Q, I guess he could kind of smell it out, he kind of knows what's what. But when I let him know, yo, I'm in touch with Scale, so forth and so on, he followed up with me. He gave me a call. And the first thing the brother said to me, he said, hey, man, he said some real true gangster thug stuff, man. He said, hey, you need to back up, man. We on one. We got it like that. We can make it happen. We'll get on some outlaw renegade stuff for you real fast. And that's the first thing that came out of that brother's mouth. So if you're really from the streets, you know what that means. An executive thug statement made, and I love him for that. No matter what happened, I felt that. So we connected. Now we continue to build and continue to build. Keep in mind, courtesy of the Boneyard at the time, I was supposed to make a trip to Las Vegas. Some things fell through. Wasn't able to make that, but Junebug and T.Y., who are, of course, a member of the Con Artist Clique off of Boneyard, which are also CEO affiliates of the Boneyard. They're founding members, along with Big Boob, which is Draco's brother. Already had me on board. So even though that fell through in '08, we made a plan another trip to get out there, courtesy of Seven, to get up there and do things during the time Bizzy was doing some West Coast touring out off in '08 during that time. Well, keeping it all the way real, man, let me tell you how it jumped off. Okay, we got everything together. I called. This was around May. We're supposed to get it in. We're getting it in. I'm like, yo, it's still good, blah, blah, everything's still great. Everything's still this, still that, still this. You know what I'm saying? So we get the bus tickets together, man, one way. We get our stuff together. We head out that way, bro, all the way up to the time we get to the Greyhound in L.A. Talk to Q. Hey, some things went north, went south, east, went west. And, man, we was out there for 28 hours, baby, at the Greyhound station. And that's the truth. That's just reality. Ain't nothing wrong with it because this is real life I'm giving y'all to show y'all that everybody, sometimes it don't, there's no happy ending all the time. So just like Bone, of course, had to go back with their situation, well, I ended up getting up with James Rainier, of course, big shots out, formerly of the Wasteland, doing what he's doing now. And we, because I had a couple numbers on Dre, but I couldn't get at it. So they found a way to get at Dre. The triple OG, man, sent some of the finest honeys courtesy of the Boneyard imaginable to swoop me up. Deja Vu and Mercedes Benz, also known as Miss Blaze. Good people, man. Swooped me up out there, man. I went to Hollywood. I met Mrs. Hernandez, which is the assistant for the Boneyard, and Dragos. Beautiful people. We had a blast. TGI Fridays, they was buying me Cadillacs. To this day, Eric, I don't know what was in them Cadillacs. To this day, I don't know what a Cadillac drink is, but I know I was throwing them back on them, and I was drinking. So, as far as Seven Sign, man, that was the craziest thing. But, it all came back full circle because, Q was doing what he was doing and trying to coordinate all that stuff for Bizzy. I gather it wasn't easy. So things fell through on that particular instance. But look where I'm at now. I'm one of the main representatives off of Bizzy Bone Entertainment. I have a wonderful relationship with Miss Melissa Frazier, also known as Miss Loco. I have a wonderful relationship with Q Loco. You know what I'm saying? And of course, I have a wonderful relationship with the Boneyard. So anytime I say Seven Sign or Bizzy Bone Entertainment, I still have to say Dragos because to me, Dragos is the foundation of all of that. He's the one that taught us not to go Hollywood. Ask Bizzy Bone where the song Hollywood came from, and I'm sure he'll tell you. That's for him to tell you on another day. So we don't go Hollywood like that. We may be in Hollywood or we may have seen Hollywood, but, we're going to keep it all the way Hollywood. And like I said, I don't have no bad blood. He's free. I try to send my tribute. And y'all be looking for, the mixtape to get hosted here soon. Again, that's one of my biggest memories, man, is the bus trip. But that was the biggest factor is that it took him preparing that stuff to go down for me to even get to where I am now. But see, if I'd have let that stop me, we wouldn't be having this conversation today now, would we? But like I said, again, it doesn't stop till the casket drop, man. And I love Q Local now. I loved him yesterday. And I love him tomorrow because, man, he's a real thug gangster, boss brother, man. And, from day one, when he gave me the permission to start Seven Sign Next Generation, he said, you want to get down with the Seven Sign? That's what it is. He said, you a boss in your own field. That's what he texted me on my phone one time. And so after what happened with Elion and the situation on that end was still resurrected, so we went to the next level. We went from being a Power One Entertainment family to a Power One regime family. Because who's going to argue with Q Local, underboss to Bizzy Bone? Who's going to tell him he's wrong? Bizzy ain't going to even tell him he's wrong because that's the kind of respect. So, yeah, man, when it comes down to the regime, baby, we riding high as a tide, man, in the water. You know what I mean? In the ocean. And, yeah, that's one of my biggest memories.
Earlier you were telling me about what the name Skins and Bones means. Can you repeat that for everyone else?
Say that again. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Well, earlier you told me what Skins and Bones like really means. Can you tell
Yeah.
everyone else?
Yeah, definitely, man. And I mean, that's a good question. The whole idea is that, you know, I basically, this name pretty much synonymizes everything that I pretty much am or how I feel perceive, everything that I write about. And I see a lot of dualities in life, you know what I'm saying? Good, evil, bad, ugly, dark, light, stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? So, when I put Skin and Bones out there, I mean it to say like skin being a metaphor for money or the paper, bones being a change that jingles, you know what I'm saying? The woman, the man, light, darkness, life and death. Anything that's kind of goes with skin is like substance, something living or breathing. Anything that goes with bones, you think about the little the little colloquialisms about the bone, or, he has something to do with a man, or he's got a boner, or, or bones as in skeleton is, it's a human form. Most generally could be construed as a man, or in the book, of the scriptures, I believe it was Elijah, or either, it talks about basically, can these dry bones live again? So it all has to do with, the dualities and where we're living at today in ancient world, ancient times. So a spin off from that, even at times you may hear me say skeleton bones, so, that's kind of like, yeah. And it's methodical, and it has the mythology of the bone connection, but I want to break in that idea of the thug and the harmony, but even more stripped down than that. Really, life in general. Saying as opposed to gospel, poetry as opposed to eulogy, song as opposed to rap, hip-hop as opposed to R&B, anything that you can think about that makes you feel real good inside, love, then hate, war, and peace. But in this case, it'd be war, it'd be peace, then war, love, then hate, pretty much. So, that's actually the ideal, and that's why also at the end of Bone is a dollar sign, because it's all about the money, so kind of showing you that at the end of everything that has to do with life and death, it ends up being about the money, whether it's right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of know that, hey, I kind of want to reflect that. And also, if I had the opportunity to drop the S, if I felt like, okay, S might be gone, because people sometimes still at me and say skin and bone, but, like you see Majesty with the dollar sign, even at one point in time, Wish had the dollar sign. It's kind of like an affiliate symbol. So I just wanted people to know, and any other Bone Thug founder who didn't know about me to know that, hey, man, I'm not just on the Bone Thug bandwagon because, blah, 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 skin and bones, Bone Thug bandwagon. It really has some significance to me, and it really meant something. And I feel like in order to get the proper attention and to get the proper understanding, that it would be important to use that, seeing that I already had the name for some time as well. And I just really wanted to make a lot of sense out of just being an affiliate, and also being able to portray some wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and some meaning.